Salutations. It's been a while. I hope you are well. So today I'm going to go a different route. I love when a film feels like reading a book. I just love character studies. I love literary fiction in general. I love it when authors are examining the human condition and throw in themes of loneliness, grief, and late-stage capitalism, and you have my attention. And most of the films I'll be recommending have hints of that or very clear themes of that, and some include romance because I am also a romance girly. So yeah, the first film I will be recommending is Paterson, which was released in 2016 and written and directed by Jim Jarmusch, and it stars Adam Driver as a poet who is a bus driver called Paterson, living in Paterson, New Jersey, and lives with his wife Laura, who's played by Golshefta Farahani, and she dreams of being a country music star as well as opening a cupcake business. And the film spans 1 week where we follow Paterson following the same routine, waking up, going to work, listening to passengers talk and interact in the bus, finding moments to write his poems in between commutes, and then when he goes back home, he usually takes out his dog, usually stops at the bar where he interacts with the patrons as well as the owner. And I love everything about this film. It's very quiet and has this really quiet magic about it, and I love it when a film and a book just follows the mundanities of life. He is the everyday man and just shares a love for art. One of the plot points in the film is that his wife keeps insisting that he publish the poems and at least make a copy, which yeah, affects something at some point. And but Paterson, I felt like he was resistant to making copies or publishing his poems because the film was sort of throwing this idea out that it's fine to just be an everyday person who's very mundane and shares a love for art and poetry and just, a person. And one of my favorite scenes is when Paterson interacts with this girl who's also a poet, and they admire Emily Dickinson and love her poems. And yeah, I'm gonna include the scene here, but it's just so beautiful and tender, as is the film, and it's just, this is the one I highly recommend the most.
Are you okay here all alone?
I'm fine. I'm just waiting for my mom and my sister. She's upstairs in that building over there.
Do you mind if I sit down till your mom comes down?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are you a bus driver?
Yeah.
Do you ever drive one of those accordion buses?
Articulated.
Articulated.
Yeah. Accordion. No, I just drive the regular ones.
Did you ever drive a fire truck?
No, just buses and cars, and drove a big truck a few times, but that's it.
Are you interested in poetry?
Actually, I am kind of.
Really?
Yeah.
I write poetry. I keep it all in this notebook. Secret notebook.
Oh, you're a poet?
Yeah.
That's great.
Would you like to hear one?
Sure.
It doesn't really rhyme, though.
That's okay. I kind of like them better when they don't.
Yeah, me too. Okay. This one's called Waterfalls. 2 words, though. That.
Waterfalls. Okay.
Okay. Waterfalls. Water falls from the bright air. It falls like hair, falling across a young girl's shoulders. Water falls, making pools in the asphalt, dirty mirrors with clouds and buildings inside. It falls on the roof of my house, it falls on my mother and on my hair. Most people call it rain.
That's a beautiful poem.
You really liked it.
Yeah, I really do. I think it's beautiful. Waterfalls. Thank you.
Doesn't rhyme exactly.
No, but the first two lines do. In a nice way. And some nice little internal rhymes too, I think.
Internal rhymes. Oh, my mom's done. That's my sister. We're twins. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet a real poet.
Do you like Emily Dickinson?
I do, yeah. She's one of my favorites.
Awesome. Bus driver that likes Emily Dickinson.
Water falls from the bright air. Falls like hair, falling across a young girl's shoulders.
The second film I'm going to be recommending is Arab Blues, which was released in 2019, and it's directed by Manal Alabidi, and it follows Salma, also played by Gulshefta Farahani. I am a fan. I am a fan since about Ellie, and she's just a brilliant actress, and she knows how to play like an emotion. And it was okay. Going on to Arab Blues. It follows Salma, played by Gulshefta Farahani, and she is a Tunisian woman who's just returned to Tunisia after living in Paris since she was, I think, 2 years old. And she is trying to open a psychotherapist practice and moving back home and settling in. And this is set post Arab Spring movement, and you also see other characters, very eccentric characters who are seeking freedom or are dealing with grief or some levels of trauma. But it's also just about people and how hilarious they are and how humorous and just everyday people. And Salma faces a lot of obstacles in trying to open her practice. There's a lot of bureaucratic limbo and just waiting, and people in her community are also reluctant to go to a therapist. They don't understand what's the point, and like hilarity ensues as soon as she opens it, and first people are resistant, but later on go. And there's one man who thinks she's offering sexual services because he's confused about what a therapist is. There's a person struggling with the gender identity, and there's a hairdresser struggling with how her mother treated her and her relationship with her mother. And it's just also about Salma trying to ingratiate herself back in her community. And there's also a relationship with her niece who's trying to leave Tunisia, and she's rather be in Paris than here. And yeah, I love how the film has an appreciation of the characters and the place, and I also appreciated its attempts at examining diaspora perceptions of the homeland, because Salma has this sort of arrogance when she returns home, and she has this attitude that, I mean, things should be going faster, but that's a reality for an everyday Tunisian person, that they will face bureaucratic like limbos, even them living there. But she thinks that, oh, because I speak the language, at least things will be faster. And yeah, this is a debut, and you can sort of feel it, but it's I would recommend it because it's here. third film I'm going to be recommending is Undine, which was released in 2020 and is directed by Christian Petzold. And this is based on a mythic tale of a mermaid who has to kill her lover if he leaves her. And it's romantic fantasy, and we're following Undine, an urban development historian who at the beginning of the film is with her lover who decides to leave her, and she tells him that she's going to have to kill him, and he's accepting of that. And then later on the day after her lecture, she has this fateful meeting with this urban diver called Christoph. They begin a long distance relationship. The two deliver this emotionally powerful performance, and the film is filled with so much love, sensuality, and curiosity. One of my favorite scenes is when they are taking this walk and are embracing and holding each other, and it's filled with so much warm light, just the sun and the way that it lands on the actors and the camera movement. It's just, yeah, it cracks something in your heart basically. And I love how tender it was, and the amazing chemistry between Undine and Christoph. And even underwater you would have these just haunt like sounds, and but also not, you wouldn't be I don't know, I didn't feel too nervous with the film, but I was anticipating that obviously this is a mythic tale. And yeah, absolutely recommend. And the fourth film I'm going to be recommending is Loners, which came out in 2021, and it's directed by Hong Sang-un, and it's a drama that follows Gina, a woman who's in her 20s, and she works at this credit card company called Center, and she's a loner and avoids building relationships with people and has chosen solitude and isolation. One day it's discovered that her neighbor who lived alone has died and had died alone, and she has to confront her choice to be like a lone person who chooses like solitude. And it's also an examination of grief because she's lost her mother and her father has moved on, so she's dealing with those emotions. On top of that, she doesn't make a lot of work, she lives in a small space, so capitalism is a major theme of the movie. And at work she's being tasked to train this new employee, and she doesn't want to build connections, as I mentioned, and she's chosen isolation. But she sort of cracks open towards the end of the movie, and I thought that this was also just a very realistic examination of humanity and the human conditions a lot of people face, including myself. And it's very relatable, and the camera and photography of the movie has this elegant and very clear-cut photography. And yeah, I really like how digital it looked, because I'm not always a fan of, I mean, most movies are digital, but I love like you know, film camera sort of movie. And the fifth movie I'm going to be recommending is Microhabitat, directed by Jean Guan, and this came out in 2017. It's a black comedy which follows a 31-year-old called Miso. And Miso has three pleasures in her life: cigarettes, one whiskey after work, and her poor boyfriend who dreams of being an artist. She faces challenges and obstacles when the price of cigarettes and cost of living rises, and she has to leave her apartment. And we follow her, and it like tracks a span of like a week or two as she tries to squat with her former bandmates, and she recalls the time she spent with her bandmates and being in a band as one of the best moments in her life. Some of them are like, no girl, you can't squat, and some say yes, and you see their lives, where they have ended as well, because they had been friends when they were younger. And yeah, this movie could have been really, really bleak, but it's so funny, and the beat is just, it hits. And I love a black comedy, and it also just feels literary, and it has a very surprising ending. Highly recommend. Most of the movies here are from Mubi. I do not have a sponsorship from Mubi, but a lot of video essayists I watch, so Buri Deschanel, Yara, Thomas Flight, have been recommending movies. So I got it last year, and there's like a lot of great films on there, and I've discovered so many gems. And if you're like a film lover but you can't even afford it, I would suggest like at least following their pages, because they post like what's on there, and if you're pirate, feel inclined. So yeah, I love their recommendations. And yeah, if you are a fan of literary fiction, again, highly recommend follow and check out these movies, and let me know if you've watched any, or if you're interested in a particular one, and we'll chat when we do.